everybody, welcome back. It's day 15 and I'm going to be in the kitchen making some really delicious wine salt, and you can use this on a lot of different dishes. So I'm going to show you how to make it and I'm going to give you some ideas for how to use it. So let's get into the kitchen. Okay, wine salt. So if you haven't heard of this, I think you're really going to enjoy it. But basically, I'm taking some coarse salt. You can use sea salt or Himalayan salt. I have a little bit of both. So I'm going to mix these two together. I'm just going to do one tray of it. So I'm going to reduce the wine and then we'll take it from there. I'm also going to add some herbs to it. For mine, I'm going to use lavender and rosemary because I grow those and I have those on hand, so I want to use them. So these flavored salts like this make great gifts. So if you make one, you can put it together in a pretty packaging, a jar or something with a label on it that tells people how to use it. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a little bit. So this is a sea salt. Anyway, I'm going to mix the two. I'm moving towards using more Himalayan salt instead of sea salt. So I'm just going to mix those up real quick. And then I have this, I'm not a huge wine drinker, but you know, if you taste wines from certain regions that you just like, those tend to be the ones that you lean towards. I tend to lean towards French and Italian wines. Those are the wines I got used to drinking. So I tend to like those flavors better than wines that are grown elsewhere. So but I have this one and I don't recall where we got it. It might have been a gift, but it's a Malbec from Argentina. So I'm going to open that up and get it into my pan and start reducing it. This really doesn't take that long to do. Once this is all mixed together, once the wine's been reduced, it's been mixed with the salt and the herbs, everything's all mixed together, you want to let it dry. So if you have a dehydrator, then that'll make the process really fast, but it really doesn't take long on its own. So anyway, then all you have to do is dry everything out so that when you put it into a container, it's not moist. And you don't have to do it in the oven or a dehydrator or anything like that. You could just leave it out on the counter for a couple of days until it's dry. So whatever works. Okay, I'm going to let this come up to temperature and let it start boiling. You don't want a lid on it because you want the moisture to evaporate out of it. So you need the lid off for that. So I'm going to go and gather my herbs and mortar and pestle to crush them up, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just have some dried rosemary in there, and then I'm going to add some lavender. And just crush them up. Oh, that lavender smells so good. Rosemary too, but man, that lavender is amazing. I think you could do this in a combination too with maybe some poultry seasonings and sage. That would be good. I think if I put sage in here, it would be overwhelmed by the rosemary and lavender, so I'm not going to do that. Wine's starting to boil. I just want to give it a stir every once in a while and make sure it's not getting too hot in one spot. I'm going to add some more rosemary because the lavender is very prominent. Okay, I added a little bit more rosemary just because I feel like there was more lavender in this than rosemary. So flavored salts like this are really great to sprinkle on meats before or after, but especially after, when you're ready to serve it. Sprinkling this on top just gives it an extra, I don't know, that little extra something. But you can very easily also use it on fish or vegetables, you know, vegetable and rice dishes, or even if you're making truffles, you know, if you're gonna make homemade truffles, you could put a little bit on top. That would create an amazing combination of flavors. You know, kind of like salted chocolate, like you would do a salted chocolate or caramels or something like that. You could do that with this, you know, and you can leave the herbs out of it and just do wine salt itself and then use those in some of your sweet dishes. You could put it on top of cake. I wouldn't put a lot, you know, so you're not putting a lot, just a teeny bit. So you get that little something in there whenever you take a bite. And you won't get it in every bite, of course. And you can use it in your cooking too, of course. Soups. You can experiment with it and just see. So once I add the wine, get it all mixed up, I'm going to put it on a tray with parchment paper, and I'm putting mine in the oven on low, so it'll dry out a little faster. I do have a dehydrator, but I'm going to be using the oven for some other things anyway, so, and I'm going to be in the kitchen, so I might as well just put them in the oven and keep an eye on it. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, when the wine reduces a little bit more, I'll come back. Okay, so I poured the wine back in and got it back up to temperature, and of course the herbs are in there with it, and I don't care, it's fine. I mean, they're all going to be heated and melded together in the oven anyway, so that's not a big deal. I'm actually going to reduce this a lot more, so we're just going to let it sit here and simmer, and I'll stir it now and then to make sure nothing's getting too hot in one area, and then we'll be back. Okay, now we're there. Let me turn this off, remove the camera so you can see what I'm doing, and pour this over the salt. Okay, I'll get my tray out and get this all spread out and into the oven. Okay. If you do want to use some kind of parchment paper, this wine will stick to whatever you put it on. Okay, let's get it in the oven. I have the oven set on the lowest setting, which is 170, and I'm gonna let it go for about 10 minutes, 15, because it's a really low temperature. I don't really have to worry about it there being issues with it too much, but I do want to come back at that point and stir it more often, just to make sure that it's drying out and everything looks like it's supposed to and all those things. Timer went off, so not really expecting much at this point. Not expecting it to be close to being done, I guess. It's still very wet, so got a while. By that, I'd say, actually I'm going to turn it up to 200, and I'll check on it in just a minute to make sure it's not burning because of that. But then after that, I'm going to reset it for about 20 or 30 minutes. I put it in the bottom oven because I needed the top oven for something else. So yeah, it's coming along. You can see a lot of the moisture has cooked out of it. You're cooking the alcohol out of this too. When you reduce the wine, and also when you put this in the oven, it burns off all the alcohol. So you're not getting the alcohol, just the flavor of the wine. Okay. I'm gonna put it back in for about 30 more minutes and we'll see how it looks then. Looks pretty dry to me. I'm going to turn the oven off and just leave it in there for a while and let the oven cool down, and it'll continue to dry while it's in there. These are just some pinking shears. And if you're not familiar, if you cut fabric with them, it doesn't fray as quickly as if you just cut it with scissors. Plus it gives it a pretty edge. I have some that are round, like scalloped. Those are pretty too. This is just some scrap material that I have left over from making those pillows. It's those napkins that I was using to make pillows. I think I'm going to use some of this jute twine if that works. Probably should have made this little thing a little bit bigger. I need a rubber band, that's what I need to hold it in place until I get my bow done. Actually, I'll just put my bow over the top of the rubber band, hopefully so you can't see it. This one I just put some of that striped ribbon around it, tied it in a knot underneath the closure, the little clasp, so it's not in the way too much. And these other ones I'm just gonna cover with a couple of different fabric options just for the sake of doing it. Don't need to be perfect. It's supposed to look rustic, right?
It's white outside and the night is cold. Everyone's lighting candles in their homes. Yes, it's Christmas. It's a magic time. You can feel it in the air, that every child got their hearts filled up with joy. Yes, it's Christmas all around. All snow is falling down, all the colored lights lighting up this town. And as I walk outside, hear the Christmas choir sing Merry Christmas to you. This time of year is a time to cheer. Let our loved ones, our family and friends have a Christmas with so much love.
Tea time, day 15. Post-party refresh. I guess they are assuming that you would be partying at this point during the holiday season, and you might need this. Organic green tea with cinnamon, garcinia, and acai berry. Well, that should be interesting. I wonder what about it is supposed to be post-party refresh. Maybe the garcinia? Well, I don't know. We'll give it a go. I can tell you the one that I had yesterday, and I can't remember what it was called now, that had the garlic in it. I didn't taste the garlic. I mean, maybe I'm desensitized to garlic and that's why I like so much of it in my food, but I would think that I would be able to pick up on garlic, and I didn't taste any garlic, so it tasted good. It was fine. I liked the tea. No problems there. Well, that's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and come back and see me tomorrow, and I'll see you then. Bye.
All snow is falling down, all the colored lights lighting up this town. And as I walk outside, hear the Christmas choir